All right. Speaking of next fights, BC, this one was kind of interesting. And someone asked me about it, and I didn't think much about it until I was forced to, and I was like, wow, that is a really good idea. Is Michael Chandler the right next opponent for Conor McGregor? So Michael Chandler, as we all know, fought Justin Gaethje over the weekend, and then went and took to Twitter. I believe we have the tweets if we can see them. I'm told we have the tweets. Let's see if they can pump them up here on the screen.
Let's see what Gaff can cook up for us right now.
Let's see what on the ones and twos if they could. Do you guys have the tweets? There we go. 2022, and then there was a response. I'm down at some stage for sure. Great fight the other night, Mike. Congrats. Now he didn't say no, BC, but he did say at some stage. Would you like to see Michael Chandler fight Conor McGregor upon his return?
I mean, I'd like to see them fight every day of the week, Luke. 8 days a week, in fact, with the Fab Four there. But here's the deal with the UFC. This is a very interesting decision on how you book Conor McGregor on this comeback. It's not just 2 straight stoppage defeats, granted to Dustin Poirier, but still, brand-wise, that's a big deal. But this injury, which leaves a lot of unknown. Luke, I think all signs, if Nate Diaz gets re-signed, if he does fight in December, that it really feels like part of re-signing Nate for the UFC would be to guarantee him the third Conor fight early next year, spring next year. And that would seem like the right fight right now for Conor, because it's certainly winnable, provided he's healthy. It's at the same time, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons why that could and maybe even should be next. But if you're going to gamble, if you're going to put Conor in there with a live body, and that's not to say that Nate isn't a live body. Look, he narrowly beat, Edwards last time. I mean, he could still do some things. But a live body like Michael Chandler, he's also extremely vulnerable in terms of, being in there to be stopped. This could be an epic shootout. And Luke, while the potential for brand, resuscitation against Nate Diaz with a win is certainly strong for Conor, even given their age, imagine if he went in there and knocked Michael Chandler out. That might be the best risk-reward proposition if you are only looking at this from the standpoint of how do we get Conor back into it, short of giving him a cowboy-like soft comeback fight, which, again, they rarely ever do. Luke, that'd be a hell of a fight. That would be one of those where it's like, I don't care. Make it a non-title pay-per-view main event. It's a guaranteed slugfest. Either guy could win at any time. Luke, I would love that shit. But that's pretty dangerous.
Let me ask you.
That's pretty dangerous just the same, dude.
Yes. So let me ask you, if you're Conor McGregor, why would you take the Michael Chandler fight? Right? Because it's going to be exciting. That's good. Fans will be up for it. Winnable, I think you might say. But there's some risks there, too. You could get knocked out in that fight. He could take you down and wrestle you, especially if it's 3 rounds. So how would you advise, if you were advising McGregor, in terms of the costs and the benefits, and which one to you, if you're, again, just speaking for McGregor's perspective, do the benefits outweigh the risks?
If you're McGregor, obviously it can come down to money, but again, I just really think it's time for UFC to cash that Nate Diaz lottery ticket, and again, I think that will be part of how they re-sign him, hanging that carrot over there for Nate to prevent him from going to Bellator or Triller or wherever the hell he's going. You know what I'm saying there. If you're Conor, though, Luke, he's always been, and it's part of what makes him great, but as his skills slip, it could be part of what helps him slip quicker, is his confidence level is always through the roof when he looks at another man and says to himself, oh, I can beat him. And look, with Michael Chandler, even despite his strong wrestling ability, which could make it a long night for Conor, if you're Conor, you look at that and see the holes. You say, look, Conor doesn't get one punched. Yeah, he got stopped by Dustin clearly, no controversy. Sometimes his losses tend to be more stamina-induced, but nobody comes in there and cleans his clock. Habib came close in that second round when he dropped him. But if you're Conor, you believe that that's kind of the perfect style fight for you. A guy who's going to come guns blazing, and with your counter style, you can pick that up and land the perfect blow. I also think if you're Conor, you maybe think Chandler will do a little gentleman's agreement and not wrestle. That's coming from me, no one else, Luke. But I know Michael Chandler. He wants a chance to go out there and win the big one. I think he's going to come out with a puncher's chance to do that. So I think if you're Conor, you'll take that for the right money. But Luke, I'm telling you, it's got to be Nate. It's got to be. It just makes so much sense across the board for a guy coming off 2 defeats. And you're going to have to cash this in eventually. If you wait too much longer, it's not going to have much life left to it.
I agree. I think this is the moment to pull that card. I think for all the reasons you articulated. There are plenty of reasons to make again, dude, Conor McGregor is not hard to matchmake for. I mean, across 2 divisions and then even catchweights in between, there's a ton of ways you could go, and all of them would be good. The Michael Chandler fight might be one of the better permutations for sure, but I agree with you. If I'm just thinking about the UFC, you can get a lot of what Chandler versus McGregor brings you with with McGregor versus Diaz. Diaz is not the same as Chandler. No, not even close. But do you get the action quotient? Do you get the anticipation quotient and the pre-fight build? You get all of that, plus you get more star power, plus you already know Conor can beat him. He's literally already done it. And neither guy is exactly at his peak, so, a win and a loss becomes forgivable, and these guys are kind of in a point where that's already the case, although even Chandler, I think, is getting to a point where the record doesn't matter anymore. I don't think he's hunting exactly like best guy in the world. He's hunting the biggest game on the biggest night, which is why for him the McGregor fight makes a ton of sense. But I'm with you. You couldn't go wrong if you made Chandler versus McGregor. Impossible. But I don't know that the equation stacks up more favorably for all the parties than McGregor versus Diaz 3. That one seems to me your biggest winner by far.
Look, I got an interesting thing to ask you. I was going to ask you, if Conor McGregor comes back in his comeback fight, let's say it's this May-ish of next year, and let's say he wins, regardless of who it is, right? Do you think he closes 2022 fighting for the lightweight title? And I think your answer would be, given his brand, all that, a win. Look, nobody gets resuscitated with a single win like Conor McGregor. Look at the Cowboy fight, right? It would make sense, right? The winner of Oliveira and Poirier. But how about this, Luke? Chael Sonnen came out in regards to the main event last weekend and says, look, Usman's great, but almost slow the roll on chasing GSP. He goes, I think Usman's going to retire sooner than you guys realize. And you can package that with comments Usman made after the fight about, I don't know what my next move is. My next move is to go home and be with my daughter because she's not going to care how much money I'm making. She's going to say, why were you not there? And for anyone who's a dad, that's a touching moment, a reminder of, going too all in on your job and being too focused and missing what's right in front of you. So, Luke, let's say that's true. Let's say Usman, who is fresh off 2 straight rematches, and really the possibility of a third rematch, potentially against Leon Edwards, who knows? There isn't, outside of Khamzat Chimaev, who Dana White says will not be next, there's no, automatic, that's the guy, right? We're sort of could it be Chiesa? Could it be whoever? Could you see Conor McGregor to close 2022 fighting for the welterweight title? I know we're going to groan at that. I know we've talked about this before, but I brought Chael Sonnen into this discussion because he got a light heavyweight title shot against John Jones that was completely undeserved, a weight class above his best weight, simply because he sells. Would they do that shit in 2022? Could that be Kamaru's retirement fight, Luke?
Not yet. No, I don't think they give it to Usman. No. I think Usman does horrible, horrible things to McGregor, and I think they know that.
Is there any part of McGregor that talks himself into believing he can win that because the third title is at stake and Usman's a wrestler? You know what I'm saying here.
On the McGregor side, sure. I think he might believe that. I think he might try and lobby for it. I can see that argument from your perspective as it relates to McGregor. And even Kamaru. Kamaru's out here I want to fight Canelo. Canelo would do horrible things to him too, but, the money would be so good, who gives a shit kind of a thing. But from the UFC's perspective, just feeding him to Usman would be... okay, so I'll put it this way. If he comes back at 170 and just looks like fucking dynamite, right? Let's say they pull the trigger on that third Diaz fight and they make it at 170 because the first two, of course, were at 170. And he goes in there and he's bouncing and he looks like the Conor from UFC 205, the guy who gave Eddie Alvarez business, right? If he looks like that, certainly you know this as well as I do. Not quite anything, but almost anything is possible at that point. I would still bet against it, but I will concede, as impossible as that seems right now, the fight game changes fast, and if he comes out and looks like $1 million in a 170 fight, it is possible. I just feel like, BC, they know that Kamaru would do damaging things to him.
Yeah, but they don't care.
Do
They
you wanna
knew that
risk
John Jones was going to beat the shit out of Chael. They made that one, Luke.
Chael was never the star Conor is. No one is the star that Conor is. Big difference.
Yeah, but if you're the UFC and you might think, look, that loss won't really count. It's in the welterweight division. It's against a potential GOAT in Kamaru. There's a lot of money to be made. Look, that shit would sell.
No, I don't mean it that way. What I mean to say is, no, I don't mean it that way. I mean, what I'm trying to tell you is, I think Kamaru literally hurts him enough to potentially alter his career.
I'm not going to argue against that. Yeah,
I don't think you risk that. I mean, I think he beats the fuck out of him. So I don't think you risk that at all. That's it. That would be the major concern, because otherwise you're printing money. In every other way, you're printing money, except when the reality hits and then Kamaru thrashes him.